Hey everyone, welcome back in. It's another episode of Bleav in Vikings with your host Wobby, joined as always on a Monday by BMac, Bryant McKinnie, former Viking and former NFL player who joins the show every Monday to talk Vikings and talk NFL. And we're going to bring him in a moment with the regular season on the horizon. Lots to get to with him and excited to do it. But first, Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from baseball to Formula One racing. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of their over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code Bleav for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online. The game starts here. And for the NFL, regular season games are about to begin, and that's what I want to talk about with BMac. We bring in Bryant McKinnie right now. How's it going, partner?
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I was at the Minnesota State Fair the last couple of days, and you being a one-time Minnesota resident may remember the State Fair, although I don't know if you would have spent much time out there because it's right in the middle of training camp.
I Bleav I did go one year, like earlier in my career. I went out there just to kind of explore a little bit.
Yeah.
We might have had an off day or something. I went out there
Yep.
with somebody to the State Fair, and that's when I first had cheese curds.
Okay. Have you had them? Have you had them since?
I have, because you know what's funny is they have a Culver's down here now in South Florida. And they
Really?
offer cheese curds. Yes. Can you Bleav Culver's made a way down here?
I
It
love
must have
it.
just got here because I seen it on Uber Eats like a month ago for the first time ever. I haven't actually seen the store, but Culver's is here in South Florida. Is it originally from Minnesota?
It's a Wisconsin company.
Oh, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay, well they
Yep.
made it to South Florida.
Yeah, good for them. Culver's is a good meal now. I mean, you
No,
need
it
something
is.
in a
It
pinch,
is.
something fast. Yeah, they'll do it for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin does claim the cheese curd. Now, when you get to when you get to where we are in Minnesota, where you were when you were with the Vikings in Eden Prairie, and where I am right now in Rosemont, which is another suburb of the Twin Cities, Wisconsin is 25, 30 minutes just to the east. So like Western Wisconsin, Eastern Minnesota, kind of the same thing. So Minnesotans probably want to claim Culver's as like one of the local companies, but they're technically a Wisconsin company, and Wisconsin definitely has like the identity of the cheese curd state, right? Like they
Right.
they are the ones who started the cheese curds. Culver's all the way down in Miami, very impressive. Can't say I would have predicted that, but I'm happy to hear it.
Me either. I was very surprised when I seen it. I was like, Culver's. Oh, my face lit up. But yeah, definitely. So I ordered Culver's. I ordered the cheese curds just to try them because I hadn't had them in a while.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, I'm sure you had some good ones at the state fair. Lots of other good stuff too. So anyway, that's what's happening right now in Minnesota. Hot, sticky, muggy, like those training camp days we had down in Mankato, Bryant. So that's what we're experiencing here in Minnesota. What you been up to in the last week since we last spoke?
I've actually been just chilling. I was able to be home this weekend, so I didn't even get a haircut. I haven't been doing much. I wait for next weekend because it's Labor Day weekend. I have people that's coming in town, so I have to hang out. Probably next weekend. So I just relaxed. I played tennis. I went to yoga, all last weekend, and just really just took time to myself. Self care is important.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Did you you mentioned you didn't even get a haircut yet this week. What do you like to do that once a week?
I do it normally on Fridays. So like
Okay.
Friday mornings, I have my tennis lessons at 11, and then when I leave from tennis, I go get a haircut, and then I come home, shower, and do everything.
Okay.
So
And
I
when
have
you
like
were
a routine that I do
yes,
pretty
for
much
sure.
every week. So every Friday is normally when I get a haircut.
That's a common thing for athletes and like especially in the NFL. I mean, like
Right.
we in the NFL is routine is
Routine.
king, man. So during the regular season when games were happening, did you get your haircut on Saturdays at the team hotel?
No, not at the team hotel. I normally got my haircut on Fridays.
Okay.
um, yeah, Fridays because Saturday you had to travel either way. So it was like I would get it done Friday night after practice.
Yep. So like
We
cuz
get
like
our
a
practice
lot
kind of early on Fridays, so you
yeah.
have more time that day. So I would get it cut, braided back then on a Friday or cut on a Friday, and then Saturday was just nothing. Well, I'm gonna tell you one time, a lot of people don't know. One time, this is back when I had braids. I had people in town, And so Saturday mornings, you're done super early. Like you're back out of there by like 10:30 in the morning. So I didn't get my hair braided Friday night. I was going to get it braided Saturday morning because we had a home game. And I was like, oh, okay, well, the person's here. I'll just get it braided afterwards to have
Yeah.
plenty of time for I to go to the hotel. So I went in there to the locker room with my hair out. I
Yeah.
never done that before. That is what inspired us having our hair out that game. Remember Randy Moss office, we all
Yeah.
wore our hair out
In
at Big
Green
Apple?
Bay.
That was me. So we did it the week before at a home game, I Bleav.
Okay.
I want to say it was a home game, and then we carried it over to the following week because we won that game. Then we
Yeah.
carried it over, I Bleav, to the Green Bay game. Like, oh, wear it out again, you know. um,
That's
but it was
awesome.
because of me coming in there with my hair out,
That's
and they're like, "You should wear it
hilarious.
like this." And I was like, "I gotta make sure I, you know." He was like, "Everybody take." Randy was like, "Everybody take their hair out," and we wear it like that. And the whole thing was like, "Oh, we're just gonna let loose." And I just had to make sure, my helmet could go over it, but it
Yep.
did.
I mean, but it's crazy though, because when I look at pictures of that, I'm like, how could you possibly get a helmet on that? But I
He just
guess,
smashes it down, but it's just like I'm so used to having it like controlled, kind of, just kind of all
yeah,
over the place under
yeah,
the helmet.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're right though. That's a common thing. Like Fridays, I think most teams do it the same. But Fridays, we'd have like a half day basically, right? You guys would
Mm-hmm.
practice at like 10 or 10:30, and then you're done at noon. They'd
Yeah, you're
cater in
pretty much
team
out of the building
snack.
by 1 o'clock, so you have a
Yeah.
lot of Friday to yourself.
Yep.
And
Cater
that's when I
something
would
in, right?
run my errands, do like the things that I need to take care of. Get your massage, get your hair
Yep.
cut. Like you do all those things on the Friday,
Yeah.
and Saturday is pretty much come in for the morning, quick meetings, walk through. The rookies bring you breakfast sandwiches, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yep. I know.
Because you weighed in on Friday already, so Saturday is like, yeah, I can have the little breakfast sandwiches from the
Yeah.
rookies. Just you just focus now on the game and relaxing and not like moving around too much.
Yep. Yep. For sure. And then, one thing that a lot of people don't know too, BMac, is home teams, at least what I'm accustomed to, home teams stay in the team hotel even before a home game,
Yeah, yeah. You have
so
to report to the hotel. I want to say like around. I can't remember what time it was. Like six, five, six,
yeah,
six
it's
or
it's
seven.
late in the day. Late in the day.
Yeah,
Yep. And that's really, I don't know. You could ask different coaches why they do that. They might all have some different answers. But
but they
again,
say no distractions, and you may have family and people in town for to come to your games, and they may be staying at your place and can be up making noise. So this is for you to be away
yep,
from all that and the distractions, and have team meetings, the night before to kind of go over your first 15 plays and things like that, and
yeah,
to really be focused in on the game. So I get it. I actually appreciate it because I've had guests, you know what I mean. So it's like I wouldn't want to probably be there with them, and
yeah.
they're going to hang out because they're in relaxation mode. I'm in work mode, so to be able to have that separation is pretty. It's good. It's needed.
Yeah. And again, it gets you back into a routine. So you know that whether you're home or away, your routine pre the night before a game is going to be the same. You're going to have the
Right.
virtually the same schedule, hotel meetings, dinner, team snack, some sort of curfew or bedtime, lights out
Yep.
time,
11 o'clock
right? I
is
mean,
stay check.
yep. Yeah. And and then the next morning you wake up, you're already with your team and you have whatever, breakfast and all that stuff. So in the NFL, routine is king, absolute king. Coaches
It
just
is,
they
and
crave
I've
that
carried that
routine.
over to my life after the
Yeah. Yeah,
NFL.
yeah, because you're well trained. It's a good way, it's a good way to be. So,
Yeah.
um, and this is an exciting time of year for NFL fans, for players, for teams, because the preseason's over, camp is over, cutting down rosters to 53. So it's a nerve-wracking time for some. For everyone else, it's really exciting. The Vikings did make a preliminary wave of cuts. They have more to get to by tomorrow's deadline. But one interesting one for me, Bryant, was um, they the Vikings cut their fourth quarterback, Matt Corral. I think they're going to keep three. I think they're going to have three quarterbacks on the roster. What are your thoughts on that? Not, and that's Jaron Hall for the Vikings. So I'm not asking specifically about what do you think of Jaron Hall, but the idea or the concept of three quarterbacks on the roster. What do you think? Because some teams like to go with two, put one on the practice squad, and use that extra roster spot on a player at another position. Other teams like to have the third quarterback. Do you have any thoughts or opinions on that?
I think they're probably just having the third just because they lost one, so it's just like let's just have an additional one in case anything happens to you know QB1, and then
Yeah.
like 2 and 3 kind of battle out. And we have to see what works with that. So just as a safety net, probably.
Yeah. And the weird thing would be is if you tried to be one of those teams, you try to get by with two and put your third on the practice squad. Because now you still get that guy in practice, right? So you can
Yeah,
have him run scout team or whatever, but you always have that risk on practice squads, which you were probably never on ever, of another team can come in and swipe that player. So you could be in a tough spot if some team swiped your practice squad quarterback from you, and then that same week your starter gets hurt. Now you're down to one quarterback. You got to call someone in as an emergency. So it'd be nice to have that roster spot to use on a player at another position, but I think to be safe, you got to go with three quarterbacks for the most part.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what do you what's going through a team's what's happening for someone like you? The spot you were in your career. You're the starting left tackle, starting offensive lineman. The first Vikings game is September 8th, right? So we're a couple weeks
Yeah,
out.
so I'm
What do you?
mentally preparing for my matchup
Yeah,
against whoever their right defensive end is, and really trying to break them down and study their techniques and things like
yeah,
that. And that's at this point now, that's my only focus now. It's like I got this game coming up. You know, I want to play well starting off the season too. So it's like I want to get out here and have a good game to open the season.
hmm
And that's all I'm thinking about now is my opponent and how well does he play.
yeah.
What level do I need to play at to to be more dominant and things like that.
Other than when you have a bye, it's really the only time, except for like the Super Bowl, where you have a couple of weeks to prep for a player, right? Because every other time it's week to week. Does that
Mm-hmm.
change anything in your mind?
It just gives you more time to prepare for them. So you just are probably the most prepared for them, but it's also your first like live game too. So maybe a little nerves there.
Yeah,
Um, but no, that's pretty much it. And then you want to stay kind of like as healthy as you can too. Like you don't want to go in the first season like getting injured at practice by anybody doing too much at practice. Like you also want to kind of I don't want to say fresh because you're never fresh, but
yeah,
you just want to feel good. You want to be able to say, hey, okay, I feel good.
yeah. Um, I thought it was funny listening back to last week's show. You're like, I wonder what it's like to start poorly because I know, I felt like I always started fast. I wonder what it's
It was
like to
always a
start
big
poorly.
thing for me. Is like I don't want to start a season and just like
Yeah.
and have like mistakes and like you know what I mean. Like
Oh yeah.
you're going to have mistakes, but like just mentally, I just rather start and have. I feel like I have a decent game under my belt and I
Yeah.
grow from there instead of like behind the eight ball.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what do you think about the season for the Vikings? I mean, you were around the team at camp. They come into here into this season. I think most people are going to pick them to finish last in the division,
They
and
are.
their quarterback gets hurt. Like, what's your feeling on them? What's your vibe just in general?
I just hope that they're using it as motivation. They've had a great preseason, I Bleav, what 3-0.
Yeah, they did.
So
Yeah.
now it's like let's try to translate that over to the regular season and keep finding ways to win games, and just realize, hey, when you step on the field, just be the best at your position on the field at that time, and just go out there and execute. Like know your plays, know your assignments, your play fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Communicate. Those are all things that that are pretty easy. Is
Yeah.
knowing your plays and communicating so you don't play slow.
Do you like if you think about okay, how am I feeling right now about this game that we're gonna play this week? And you get to like Sunday morning arriving at the stadium. So you think about that, but then you think about like, okay, it's 10 days before the regular season. How am I feeling about this season? I always felt like going into a game, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna win this game. Like we're better than them in these areas, and we're gonna do that. But before a season, you might have a little broader view of it, and you're like, I don't know if we're very good this year. We got these problems and that and those problems. And then other years you're like, dang, we got a really good team. I don't know how many games we're going to win. I know it's hard to win all of them, but we're going to win a lot of games. Did you ever have a variance in that, or did you always feel like every year the team was going to be good?
I feel like you always had a chance. Now it
Hmm.
just depends on how certain players and people in positions respond to things like when they don't have a good game. It's like how are they going to come back next week? You know, or they're going to be in the dumps. Like so, because it's a team thing, it's a lot of different moving parts. So and everybody has to kind of be,
Yeah.
kind of on the same page. So really, like offense could have played well and the defense just didn't. Like you know what I mean? Just either or. So it's just really how people respond a lot.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying though? Where like, I don't know that there were
Like you go
very.
into some games, you feel like you should win them.
Yeah, I feel like there was
Yeah, we go
almost.
into some games like yeah, we definitely go into games like
Yeah,
we should win this game. And
I
in some
think
games you
so.
go into be like, okay, we have to make sure we limit our mistakes, and
Yeah.
this will be a hard fight, but we can like you're always gonna believe you can pull it out, but you just know some games will be more of a challenge than others. And some games you walk into like, nah, we should absolutely win this.
Yes, it was so rare. I think when you were like, we're not going to win this game," and I would argue, I think BMac for you when I was there at the same time you were, which would have been 05 to 10. I don't think there was any games in that stretch where I was like, we can't win this game. I mean, and I don't know when that changes, because I think anyone listening who's played a sport at like the youth level or the high school level probably had an experience where they were on a team that was bad, and you're just like, we never win. We're not going to win. But like for some reason, at some level of the sport, maybe it's in college or somewhere along the line, you get to the point where like you have so much belief in everyone around you that you're like, we should win this game. We're going to win this game.
Mm. And you can see it during the week of practice. You can see how well people are practicing things like that,
Yeah.
and it's just about them carrying it over. So you can tell in the practice how energetic and people are executing plays, and there's not a lot of mistakes. And you can get it. You can get the vibe that coaches like and how practice and things are going too. You can kind of pick up on the energy.
Yeah. Um, I think the energy around the Vikings is good. Like I get why they're predicted to be fourth in the division. I think it has a lot to do with the quarterback situation, but I like the vibe around them. I think it's positive, and I think Brian Flores has something good going on defense. And I think Sam Darnold is in the advantageous position of like, people don't believe in me, they don't expect much from me. And so often in this league, BMac, it's those people who get underestimated that kind of rise up.
Yeah, but that's good too to be like the underdog because then people you're not on people's radar as much,
Hmm.
and they'll kind of sleep on you, and then you go out there and outperform with the expectations.
Yeah, for sure. Um, One thing I wanted to ask you about: have you been seeing the comments up between Tua and Brian Flores? That's sort of semi controversy. Have you seen any of that at all?
No,
So so when Brian Flores was the head coach down in Miami, Tua was his
mm-hmm.
quarterback, and he ended up benching him. And anyway, Flores eventually leaves Miami and goes on to be an assistant with some other teams. And now Tua obviously has flourished and is playing really well. And so just a couple weeks ago, Tua went on a radio show in Miami, to the Dan Lebitard show, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and was really critical of Coach Flores and said he's a bad person and I didn't enjoy playing for him. So I was wondering if you had heard it, because it really surprised me that someone would be so sort of open about that. Like you don't often see that where someone just completely rips another,
This
like, a
generation is
coach.
different.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about that though. So
They
you've
will get
noticed
on
that.
Twitter and say it.
Yeah,
They'll say things where I feel like in the past we probably felt like saying those things could kind of get us blackballed or something later on, but
yeah,
now they're to the point where you pay me as long as I'm performing on the field, like I can have an opinion. So times have become different. I feel like people having their own social media handles. They've become their own reporter, so they can
yep,
say what they want to say, and they just have the freedom of speech and say how they feel. And are they wrong for saying how they feel? No.
yep. It's just I think that's a good perspective on it. Like what's wrong with authenticity and honesty, right?
Right.
Like nothing. Like that is good. And you're right. That's sort of a flavor of the current athlete, the modern day athlete.
Hmm.
And they have the platforms now that maybe you didn't have,
We
right?
didn't have them, so therefore if we said something or had those type of things, you didn't get to hear from us. So
Yeah.
all you heard was from the front office, and then they'll make a statement, and that swayed everybody's opinion. But now those guys can say things you can hear directly from them how they feel about situations. So it changes the ball game
Yeah.
completely. So it's totally different. So the teams could kind of put out a better narration of what they want to say is going on or taking place. And you won't hear nothing from us because it takes for somebody to have to interview us to put it out there. But now with social media, I can get on there and tell you exactly what happened and how I feel. And it's like without a reporter because I'm my own broadcast, basically.
Yeah. And I guess like grand scheme, that's good, right? Because we're hearing it's more
It is good
honesty.
because a lot of things have taken place. I just feel like in the past and have been put out media wise incorrectly for just like a lot of just different players in the past when there wasn't any social media. So now guys can speak up for themselves or correct or say anything, so it doesn't tarnish their image.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, if you were a coach or another teammate or something, and you heard that honesty from a player or a teammate of yours, you could take it personally, be insulted, be embarrassed, but you could also take it
self-reflect,
constructively, right, and change,
and wonder why does he view me like that? What am I doing? How can I be better? So it's someone where you can probably self-reflect to see like what role did you play in that, or do you feel like that is the case? Just give you a moment to self-reflect on. How are you being as a coach? How have you been in the coach? Have you grown from that?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we got the regular season. It's upon us here, Bryant. It sounds like you might have some exciting plans here early in the season to go watch a regular season game.
Confirmation tomorrow.
Yeah, you might be on the road. That'd be fun if that happens. So we'll maybe be able to talk about that next week. We're going to have another podcast before the Vikings play. So generally right now we're kind of feeling like the Vikings have an opportunity ahead of them in talking about the season in general. But next week, I think we dig into the New York Giants a little bit. And, the Giants have a really good defense. That's the Vikings week 1 opponent, of course. The Vikings are on the road for that game on Sunday, September 8th. The Giants will be fun to dig into with you, though, BMac, because I think they have a really good defensive line with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau, and now they traded for Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers. So I really like their defensive line. I think it's going to be a fun, good challenge for the Vikings offensive line, and who can't get excited for a big battle in the trenches like that, right? I mean, we've been waiting for this, right? And I think we're going to have a cool battle to watch up front in that game.
Yeah, that's good. And that, puts highlights the offensive line and make them want to step their game up and play well against a good defensive line. And I feel like that's how it was when Phil and I and Hutch and all of us had, a challenge in front of us. We were going to step up and accept the challenge.
Yep, absolutely. And a cool thing about the Vikings offensive line is all 5 projected starters are returning from last year's team. Now, one of them is going to be a starter is Blake Brandel, and he was sort of a key reserve last year. He played in multiple positions, but he's a returning guy from last year's team. So I think that continuity is going to be there for them, which is a really big benefit and something you experienced a lot of when you were with Minnesota is continuity with that starting 5, and that's important.
It's very important. You're very comfortable. You kind of being able to know how the guy next to you plays is very important. Your comfort level playing next to that person also that helps them out a lot.
Yeah. So so we'll be back on Monday, BMac and I, to break down Vikings Giants and get everyone ready for the regular season. I think for today, though, that's going to do it. We're gonna, I'm sure there's some news that's happened, Bryant, like in this recording. I mean, this time of year, that's what happens in the NFL, right? CeeDee Lamb gets his contract, and Jamar Chase is looking for his, and the Vikings made these cuts. I mean, the news is fast and furious. So a week from now, we'll have all of that stuff behind us, and we'll be able to talk Vikings Giants. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you. In the meantime, good luck with everything this week, and we'll do this again next Monday. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. That's it for today's episode of Bleav in Vikings with Bryant McKinnie and yours truly, Wobby. Thank you for listening. We want you to like, follow, and subscribe to Bleav in Vikings. We are where all the other favorite podcasts of yours can be found, the major podcasting platforms and on YouTube. So make sure you download, like, follow, and subscribe, and check us out on YouTube as well. On behalf of Bryant McKinnie, this is Wobby signing off for now. And remember, everyone, keep believing.